Fine. Yeah, very good morning to all. So myself, Dr. Hariharan, basically engineering background professor with respect to M.B.A blend also. So my doctorate is in both management and as well as engineering. So in engineering, I'm doing it in manufacturing department, and for M.B.A I have completed. So that is under operations management. My major specialization is operations and manpower management. So with respect to today's discussion, so I would like to furnish some details on the topic given. Hope so you could have accessed about the lesson plan and as well as the PowerPoint presentation for the today's discussion. That is the topic of discussion is project closure ethics and digital management. So it is going to be a non-functional elective of human resource management. And moreover, this paper we are going to discuss as would like a kind of end-to-end encrypted way of activities. So it is like how data is being shared and what are all the things we possess with respect to recruitment, with respect to taking up evidential activity, or what are all the behavioral approaches, how to predict the behavior of an individual, and whether it is done as per the code of conduct that is ethical, and whether we are not violating any rules and regulations in this particular process of project closure, ethical follow-ups, and digital updations. So this is what the entire paper, the single line of the entire paper is going to be. So now we are getting into the area of project management lifecycle. So to be very precise, each and everywhere we need to focus on project management with respect to different phases. I just need to brainstorm each and everyday task into a particular tablet. If I take this tablet every day, I can be alive. Similar to this, a project is like a kind of tablet where we need to make each and every phase is like adding regeneration or adding a kind of, mortalization towards my day-to-day regular activities. So it is nothing but how current details of a particular project is being connected and how it is being broken, and out of the pieces what we get after the breaking the entire project, how we need to set our own target in order to achieve the project on time. So it is very simple to make a product deliverable with respect to various phases along with the current updation of the project. If I could not make a project which is highly permissible or highly reviewable, I need to go for some basic suggestions. So those suggestions might be having a kind of initiation or a kind of cyclical approaches or a kind of new innovativeness with respect to some adding creativity towards the project. So obviously, the entire phase of a particular project cycle will be divided into basically of five segments. That is how those ideology or how those creative natures will be segmented. That is from number one, sequence. So it is what the goal is being oriented. So while the cycle is being initiated, the goal has to oriented towards a sequential approaches. So to be very precise, the word sequence itself reminding us the concept of uncertainty. If I would like to make a sequence, how those sequences will break the certain approaches to uncertain approaches, what are all the presiding phases, who are all the successors, who are all the predecessors, who are all the basic levels of creating a new approaches. So when I would like to ensure or when I would like to with respect to the activity or with respect to a promotion, what are all the prevential measure I could take in order to make the project not to go to the uncertain part. So this is what it is being mentioned here, that is goal oriented, having its own characteristics, which means we have the sequences both in certain sequences and uncertain sequences. In order to remove a schedule, in order to make a schedule or in order to remove a schedule, I need to make a overlapping phases which is going to be the next phase. That is, after sequences, some things might be overlapping. For example, if I have a regular paper and a backlog paper on the same day, that becomes a cycle, or that becomes a, I mean, immediate way of action, which also becomes a goal setting, and that becomes a deliverable, which is highly tough for me. If I would get both the papers on the same day for continuous 5 days, might not be in a position to continue the project, and I can complete the steps on time. So I could not review, I could not revise, I could not regulate my work. So by that point of time, I might get a negative feedback, or I'd get a negative backlog. So with respect to the attainment of a portion. So in this particular first two phases, sequences and overlapping, I should be very clear that who is my predecessor and who is my successor, and who are all the people relatable to a particular activity. Again, I'm coming to the next third most important point, that is nothing but adaptive. If I could adapt in a particular project, I can enhance, I can equip, I can learn every day. I make myself a enhancing faculty to face the people who are all of different domain. So as we people, when migrating from engineering people to management people, we might face a lot of people who are all taking up MBA with enormous kind of, undergraduation. So those people, when they given a project, if I come, join as a first year MBA student, complete my first year, getting into the second year, in between first year and second year migration, I might have a internship. So that particular internship will be of a kind of activity which is highly innovative, getting into a corporate or a company, analyzing their plus and minus, giving them the high level percentage of application, how rapid they are, who are all the incremental phases they have, and how the process could be iterated. Everything deals with the third point, that is reviewing. So while reviewing the project management steps, I'll be having a kind of activity which is so very adaptive, not a kind of reluctant methodology. So it will not be rigid, which will be flexible, which will be accessible, which will be like a boomerang to me. Even if I throw anywhere, it will come back to me as I throw. So the adaptive nature is like a boomerang. Even after so many iterations, the duration between the first iteration and the second iteration varies. The process outcome remains the same. It will be parallelly updatable. It will be parallelly redundant. It will be parallelly working with the usual performances. There could not be any unusual nature of activity. Secondarily, as I told, a sequence, then getting into a particular activity which is, overlapping, and then getting into an activity which is highly adaptive. So after making these three things, I'm coming to the fourth phase, which is highly important, which is the combination of one, two, three again, which is nothing but predictive. So why I have given predictive as so many important? Because yes, Gauri Shankar, yes.
ப்ரொஃபசர், இன்னும் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் லைன்ல இருக்க மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு. அப்படிதான் போயிட்டு இருக்கோமா இல்ல எப்படி ப்ரொஃபசர்?
Illa. I'm migrating. Actually, the content has to be discussed with the example for each and every slide. So each and
ஓகே.
every slide might have three or more phases. So now
ஓ,
the content
ஓகே.
has been changed. Could you
யா
see the
யா இப்போ
change?
யா
Yeah.
ப்ரொஃபசர்.
Could you see the change?
எஸ்.
Yeah,
ஓகே.
please
தேங்க்யூ ஸோ
follow.
மச்.
Fine. Thank you. So with respect to predictive life cycle, as I told, sequence, overlapping, adaptive, which all covers in the first slide. While I'm coming to the second slide, it is going to give us some new approach, which is a dynamic approach. So till then, in the first slide, we discussed about the static approaches. That is what Gauri has pointed out. So it is going to be a static, approaches. When I'm coming to predictive life cycle, it becomes a dynamic approach. Since prediction comes as like a kind of forecasting, as we could represent the term called forecasting, how the demand could be forecasted. Similar like of activity here, we are forecasting the people's equipment or people enhancement or the people's scope, time, cost savings, project updations within the stipulated period or not. If I take some extended period from one phase to another phase, the predictive life cycle will give me a monitoring phase, so I can easily judge when the project will get closed. I'll give you an example. Suppose if I'm starting my own B school, that is business school, I can run it for another 5 more years, getting approval for 5 years with a kind of 60 intake per year. If I go regularly for 5 years, after the fifth year, if my admissions are getting down due to various reasons, due to competition, so by the time I'll be in a position to close my company or my close my organization because of not getting so much predicted income or input or number of people accessing. So then the project becomes a closure. It becomes a predictive life cycle. So when I predict out of total competition, that is around 500 B schools, if I am one among the 500 B school, I can know the series of sequences. Who is going to close first? Who is going to close next? And who are all the people involved? So these many categories are need to consider while I'm considering this predictive life cycle. And one last line regarding predictive life cycle is compositional skills. So, when a compositional skills are attained, or kind of activity, or a kind of determination, those kind of determinations or those kind of activities are being put forth with respect to a people based approaches rather than product based approaches. So, when I try to make it as a people based approaches, it becomes a factor again. So here, to conclude this predictive life cycle, one statement can be given as an entire tagline that is nothing but it is, sorry, any disturbances? Is it all clear? Is my voice is disturbing?
இல்ல ப்ரொஃபசர் கிளியர்.
Okay, fine, fine. So with concluding this predictive life cycle, the project has to detail everywhere. It need to convince the customer, it need to convince the team, it need to convince the progress. So finally, the team has to convince from which phase to which phase I'm migrating. If the phase is getting terminated, I need to know the termination rate. If the phase is getting to the next level, I need to know the succession rate. So to conclude this, succession and as well as terminations are together monitored at the end of predictive life cycle. Now we are getting into the next slide. That is how it is being evaluated based upon a mark or a remark. So once after starting, I should know the project goal, deadlines, prioritization, how to make the association, and what are all the risk involved, and who are all going to be my immediate bosses or immediate supervisors. So for which I give a fine example. That is, a project manager is being kickstarting his project to understand the stakeholder or the client or the people who are all making the project or people who are all making the final decision makers. So they will be getting some instruction from the top level people, and the project manager acting as a middle level individual who is going to take up the activity will all assemble at a common project team. Upon making a final decision or proceeding, the project will make us to drive towards a next phase of that is moving phase, in which moving phase I will be making the timeline fixtures. So after making a clear cut fixtures of my ideologies, of my creation, of my applicable area, I'll be into a clear cut execution of the project because everywhere I need to know the earlier starting time and the least closing time. So these two terms are to be enclosed everywhere with respect to a project. So that is what we call it as an operations like. Actually, the planning phase will be both in manpower planning and as well as operations management concept. So in operations, what we represent it as lead time. So when a project is being initiated, I would know to ensure that the lead time, that is the execution time, what we call it as earlier starting time or the least closing time. That is a late closing time or the earlier starting time. So when I try to identify the requirement of the stakeholder, the objective of the employee, goals of the company, everything will be finalized and it will be mapped. So the entire roadmap will be given in the second phase of planning. And finally, if I complete the second phase, I'll be given a chance of execution. So the trial starts in the third phase. So once after making a team, it's like a cricket team. Once after fixing the players and bowlers and the fielders, so the captain of the team will make the entire execution by allocating the right people at the right position. So some will be in the off end, some will be in the long end, some will be in the particular wicket keeping, or some will be bowling, or the order of bowlers will be planned by the captain. So that is what the execution phase is going to be. So the executing the project plan is like organizing the 11 members in a team of a cricket and completing the target and making the target very stringent for the opposite component to highly worth enough to attain the target. So winning a competition which is with a easy team is not at all a task, but proceeding the competition with respect to the scope, with respect to the delivery, with respect to the budget, resources, with respect to benefits, applications, vision, mission, and policy statements, everything deals with this third phase of execution. So I should not misalign myself. I should not go to a deviated position. I should be in a position which is highly vulnerable. I should make every individual activity to reveal what is going to happen. And finally, who are all the delivery people who make the project as a product? So ultimate essence of project is to identify a project with a product. So now I would like to go for a poll. So in this particular polling, I would like to ensure that everyone kindly do answer. So I just post a poll. The poll is regarding which is given more weightages. For example, I just post a question as which is of higher weightages. Which is of higher weightages. Number one will be project or product. Just go with the flow. So it is being shared in your chat box. So hope so it is being shared in the chat box. It is loaded, right? So which is, sorry, it is typo, which is of higher weightages. That is either project or product. So kindly fill in the poll. So once after the poll, out of three members only is there. Out of the overall poll, we will decide the entire answers. One response, product. Fine. What about others? Hope so. Three members are online. Two members, product. What about the third one? Prasad. What about the third one?
Our count is increased to 9, Professor.
Yeah, fine. So two members have included as product and the one has included as project. So the higher weightages is mainly given to a project. Actually, I'll tell the reason why it is being mentioned as project rather than product. Because a product, what we give it as a end product to the end user is nothing but the cumulative effort or the consolidated effort of each and every people involved in a project. So we could not get the product immediately as if a kind of planning or as if a kind of activity or as if a kind of market sharing. Once the project is executed with a equipped, I mean, certain team of team or equipped with certain particular team might have a connection. They might identify the scope. They might identify the people who are all really in need of. They will know the feasibility. They will understand the case in a commercial perspective and as well as in a technical perspective. Then only I can identify this project will everlast. I'll give you an example. So once upon a time, that is over 15 years back, take it up for example as like a 2005 or 2006 time. So VCD or CD players or a kind of DVD players, so those kind of compact disc, as what we call, is what a highly innovative nature of sharing information, data from one area to another area, which was highly feasible by that time. But slowly it got transformed to pen drive. Those pen drives are now getting outdated. We are getting into Bluetooth. We are getting into new way of innovation. We are getting into cloud. So now AI tool, Power BI tool, everything is coming in. And finally, the product is being delivered without even feeling the product. So ultimately, the product is the outcome of the cumulative effort of the project. How easiness is being made, and what are all the easiness is being comfortable for us to access the information. to store the information, to retrieve the information, and finally, it takes some essential study behind the project, which is highly economical, highly operational, it is highly legal. There are some technical aspects which is highly innovated, which is, I mean, encrypted, what we call it as, which is with appropriate solution. So when I try to identify the scope of the product, the project plays a vital role. Now, the project team who is going to design the compact disk, whether it is going to be a readable disk or non-readable disk, whether it is going to be equally treatable with other storage devices, or whether it is going to be a competitor for other floppy disk. So once floppy disk and obviously the compact disk together came into the field, both were in the competition for storage devices, and based on the quantity and quality of the storage, it is getting differentiated. Now it is getting into cloud connection. Not even a storage device is needed. We can share everything through a cloud computing, or a artificial intelligence is going to play a vital and essential role in making the deadlines easier. So I can easily monitor who is going to be the feature, or who is going to be the key performance indicator for my entire activity. Obviously, the project will deliver the product on par with time. And finally, the team is becoming a easy factor for identifying the undeliverables to deliverables. So I'm coming again. This phase 1 to 3 4. So first phase, initiation, planning, execution, and monitoring. And why the project is getting closed? What are all the reasons? I would like to furnish the last point for this flowchart. So the closure is mainly happening because of consistencies of business process re-engineering, BPR we used to call. So I hope so. Majority of people in working in companies and corporate, BPR is going to be the tagline for the nearby future. Everywhere, BPR is getting into the developmental activity, project phases, following phases, and finally, what we call it as SOW, as we call SOP, that is Standard Operating Procedure. SOW is Statement of Work. So, in the near future, as per our prediction, teachers' prediction, a project given to a set of corporate people or a peer group people will be undertaken in a particular estimated time. And finally, rather than giving us a consolidated report, every individual is being driven, data driven approaches are being inculcated, and every individual is ready to take up the characteristics of statement of work, SOW, which is nothing but a single statement has to be justified the entire input towards a particular work, and which is helping the team to guide the other peer members who are all joining later to the project. So, which will add fuel to the engine called project. So, the closure phase can be predicted and it cannot be stopped, it could be postponed. So, the tagline of this flow chart is the closure phase is well known to us. But at the same time, the closure phase can be summarized and it could be compared, and I can postpone my closure rather than immediate closure. So during the period of exhausting, that is the period of postponement, the target period and the postponing period, I might get a chance to overcome the challenges, the critical solutions, the critical pathway, and finally coming to a level of goal attainment, which is possible, that is one and only possible during the time of waiting period, that is the target closure period, and as well as the extension or the postponement period. Suppose if my project is about to close in the month of April end, so I'm getting a permission or a relaxation period or a exhausting extension period of about 1 month. So in this month of May, I might go for a strategical change. I might go for a goal change. I might go for a phase change. So that particular change will give me a enormous kind of managing my cost, managing my time, managing the risk, change management, planning management, essential categorization, complex requirements, limitations, designs, everything will be functional. everything will be operational, and everything will be tactical. So, when as an individual, from fifth phase to the next phase, I should focus on operational, functional, and tactical. So, with this, the flow chart is getting one cyclic round. So, coming to the next slide, that is initiation. So, this is going to be the basic statement where all the feasibility will be there, how the projects could be determined, and what is the time we are calculating, and what are all the desired results will be approaching. In this particular slide, the key word is desired results. So there is a huge difference between desiring nature and essential nature. If I would essentially consider some things, it should be present mandatorily. If I desirely attaining a result, it may or may not be in the outcome. It may or may not be in the outcome, which are all undetermined, unexpected, or which are all happening at a certain point of time. So, which will not come under SOW, that is statement of work. Why? Because it is the word of desired result. I'm expecting. Even if it is not happening, it will not cause a huge loss for me. Why? Because it is the word of the keyword varies. Here we are differentiating the results into two. One is essential, one is desired. 50 mark is essential, whereas desired is 99 or 100 or 90 above is my desired. So whereas the results could be like a passing criteria, essential criteria is like a passing criteria, and desired criteria is like a topper criteria. Obviously, the project is going to be equipped by all the people who are all taking up the course. And essential and desired are going to vary based on the value determination, based on the backup determination, and it is capable. It is all depends on their capability and the strategy what they adopt. But on the whole, this slide is having only two keywords. One is strategy, another one is desired results. So getting into the next slide. So this slide is going to be the feature of today's point of discussion. Exactly, we are coming into the pitch in this particular slide. So the bullet points discussed in this particular slide differs from one point to another. So the project charter, the word charter is going to give you an input on how the developmental phases are going to happen. Yeah, Gauri, any disturbances?
Sorry, Professor, by mistake I pressed
No,
it.
no, no, no issues, no issues, no issues. So project charter is being considered with some important documentation. So when I try to involve a documentation process in a particular project, it becomes essential one rather than desirable one. I'm coming again. A project has to be documented in all phases, either digitally or physically. If it is going to be digitally, it could be shared as a cloud. If it is going to be physically, every time it is going to be inspected by a set of team that is nothing but an audit team, which is general. But everywhere, documentation matters a lot. Without documentation or without a delivery nature, I could not make the changes. I could not make a dynamic approaches. So project is obviously focusing on dynamic natures, not on the static natures. If a project is static because it is not having a plan, we can easily say that the project is a failure. So in engineering, actually what we call it as poke poke hyphen yoke, which is a Japanese term, that is mistake proofing. If my final year project is a failure model, is a failure prototype, even for my failure, the master will be giving marks for me for my failure, which will be like why the project has been failed. I need to give a justification. If the justification is acceptable, even the failed phase will be considered for performances, which will be considered for planning, which will be considered for approval and acceptance, and furthermore design characteristics. If my project is converted to a product, if the product formula is converted to a patent, IPR, designing, product design, development, everything starts here. So if I go with the patent for my product, which is done only with the help of this project, if it is a failure one, there is no compulsion to close this project. I can regenerate the same project again with the revision of principles. I can regenerate the same project with a new philosophy or a new idea. That is what it is being mentioned here. Documentation must be enclosed on these headers. Number one is business vision. So general vision and mission everyone might be having. So I want to become a president of India. I want to have to so many automobiles in my home. So these are all the vision and mission everyone might be having. But what is a business vision? How I am making 100 rupees to 1,000, 1,000 is 10,000, 10,000 to 1 lakh. The multiplication factor, the commercialization rather than globalization and privatization, and as well as the liberalization, LPG, what we call, we need to cover some areas on commercialization first of all. So when a project is about to close, the first reason the board of executives or the board of inspecting body, what they will tell is there is no commercial nature. I could not take up even a single rupee from this project. It is a waste project. But it could be a socially acceptable project. But it is not an economically feasible project. That is what the first thing is telling us strongly. It is like hammering in my mindset is business vision and mission is a kind of commercialization. Coming to the next point, project goals and benefits. So when I try to know the goals and benefits, I should track everywhere. I will give an example. For example, if it is going to be an India Post delivery or an India Post access, where we have a consignment number. That consignment number is giving us a characteristics of making the entire ideology or entire jurisdiction to come into a particular action, to come into a particular duration, when it will reach me, who are all the end-to-end officers who is operating my entire delivery. Just nothing but goals and benefits. I can monitor, I can track, I can ensure where it is exactly located. I can know why it is written. Lackage of proper address proof. Lackage of people involved in accessing the product. So the project goals, again, I'm going for a poll. So project goals, generally, my poll is regarding if the project goal is to be set. So what is the essential factor of a goal? So I'm coming to a question. My question is, what is essential in project? First one is either goal or objective. I'm just posting it. I'm just posting. I have posted it. So what is essential in a project? Goals or objectives? Come with your responses. Objectives, one response. Two for objectives. Last one. Who is the last one? Could you make it the response soon? Third one. Am I audible? The third one. Yeah. So in this particular second poll, you have given objectives as majority and goal as a minority. So here majority is finalized objectives. So now I would furnish information. What is the difference between goal and objective? So objective is nothing but a statement which is given with the beneficiary at the end, with the consideration at the end. Goals are given as a generalistic statement which may or may not have a interesting factor at the end, which may or may not end up in the success rate. Goal is a statement, whereas objective is a promise. That is what to be known clearly before starting any project. Whatever the project you are you are initiating, keep one thing in mind. First of all, before setting up goal and objective, you should know the real meaning. Objective is the one which is the end acceptability or end confirmation. There will be an end confirmation. After travel all the way, final destination, after reaching the destination, you can know the end purpose. Whereas the goal can be set, can be reached by you cannot recognize or reveal, or you cannot experience rapid change. You cannot see the dynamic natures with respect to a particular goal. So coming to the third point, that is stakeholders, that is employee, partners, suppliers, every individual who are all supporting to your project, sponsors, I mean technical advisors, board of committee members, all kind of associative and council bodies. Fourth one is the scope of obviously. Without scope, I cannot ensure the project can be completed on time. Delivery, what are all the risks associated with the project, and finally a budget. These are all the general terms. The project deliverables is nothing but how the project can be converted to a essential service and how the essential can be service can be delivered. So it is like a activity which is being planned, monitored, tracked, and finally reaching the consumer. Coming to the next slide. So these are all the same things. What I have insisted in the previous slide, that is components, planning, documentation, estimation, and anticipated risk. Out of the entire points, only the last point is mattering a lot. That is anticipated risk. The other 4 points will be mandatory. They will not change. Even if Hariharan is doing the same project, or Gauri or Venkat or Prasad, whoever do the project is going to be the same. But anticipated risk might be the risk will be more in Hari's project rather than Prasad's project or Gauri's project. So by that point of time, the phases between Hari's migration to Gauri's migration might vary. So these are all the things which should be considered. The particular long scale planning. That long scale planning has to be freezed. Coming to the next slide, execution. So which we discussed in the flow chart itself, but here I need a keyword understanding. One is resources allocation. That is the first line, resources allocation. And in the second line, customer satisfaction. These two statements ought to be in project execution mandatorily. Why? Because when a task is given to you, everyone will be working on the task. Everyone will be completing the task. But no one cares about the quality of the task. But no one cares about the utilization of the resources of the particular attainment of the task. Everyone cares about the task, everyone cares about the quality, everyone cares about the individual focus, and finally, no one cares about the quality of the task. So, for the quality of the task, I need to focus on the resources allocation, the customer requirements, the project understanding, for which I need to know from where the resources are coming to me, from where the resources are attainable, which is the warehouse of the resource. So, that mine, that warehouse, the area from which the resources could be purchased or attained should be known to everyone involved in the project. That is what essential categorization. So, this is going to be the flow of the execution part. That is the first TAA, that is test, accept, approve. While delivery, I need to test it. Going for a car, if I would like to purchase a new car, I go for a test drive. I accept the model. I approve the variant. I pay an advance amount, and then I give a document. I go for performances, and then I need to track when the vehicle will be reaching to me, and then finally I'm purchasing the vehicle. So the project execution can be imagined like purchasing a four-wheeler. So when I would like to go for any four-wheeler, this flow will be there. So delivery, I need to go for a test, accept, approve, planning, performances, finally keeping in track. I will be calling my relationship manager. I'll be calling my product manager repeatedly when I will be receiving my four-wheeler. So I will keep on a track with my relationship manager in order to ensure all the activities, all the documents I have submitted, why you are delaying it? Because dispatching might have a delay. So he or she might be delaying in delivering the car to me. So that is what uncertain activity, which cannot be monitored, which I cannot ensure. Why? Because in manufacturing unit, if they are not dispatching, how could a dealer could dispatch to me? So it might become a problem. It might become a unreachable one. I could not promise it. By booking it today, I cannot say that by this month end you'll be getting a car, because it is totally depending on the unit who is going to dispatch the product. That is what keep project on track. Getting to monitoring, so which is again the second phase of discussion today. So this slide, from this slide, it is going to be the division number two. So till then, we have planned it, we have initiated, we have made a control, we have given a drastic evidence. Now, I would like to go for a monitoring. When I would like to monitor, I will be studying the idea, I'll be studying the strategy, I'll be studying the triggering point where the kickstart is being done. I'll be studying the requirements, designing, specification, feature, warranty guarantee, further utility, resale value, innovation. Everything is accountable in this monitoring and controlling. So, as I have intimated the example of purchase of four wheeler, every time I will monitor my four wheeler. So, per year, if I would take a car for about 6 lakhs per year, it is coming around 50,000 rupees, 30 to 50,000 rupees of depreciation. Even the vehicle is running or not, even after the time it is stepped out from the dealership, getting into a road, the depreciation is started. So, the depreciation, utility, innovationness, business purposes, value modeling, everything is accountable. And finally, I'm coming to a concern of timeliness. That is what I have timelines and as well as the parameters. That is what I have included in the last line. Financial parameters, depreciation, timeline. If I'm having the car for more than 10 years, by the end of 10th year, I cannot assure you a profit or I cannot assure you a fair price. If I am purchasing a vehicle for 6 lakhs, by the end of 10th year, I cannot assure you a fair price. It might go for either 50,000 or 75,000 or maximum 1 lakh. I cannot assure you a very good price. If I'm going for a car for the same amount, if I'm selling it for the fourth year or the fifth year or a nearby duration, I might go for a chance of getting at least 75% or 60% of the value. That is what monitoring is mainly planned on. Is handing over the same condition of the product after 3 or 4 years will give you this price. If it is going to be another more categorization of decreasing or decremental category, it will again decrease your entire amount, which will plan on the nearby future and finally it will not be in the alignment. So that is what the main goal of the phase is, to check whether the aligned factors are with the plan, parameter, timeliness, and completing the task on time. Now, giving you a characteristics flow, the last three slides will be on characterization. So till now we have discussed about the project phases, priority, project or product, goal or objective, parameters, strength, weakness of finance, strength, weakness of time, cost, savings, everything. Now we are going to reveal the character of a project. When the project will be a hero or when the project will become a villain is nothing but on based on the characterization. If a project is taken during the month of November or December or in the month, I mean year end, major vendors or major recruiters will be in a tight target. So as we are discussing about the purchase of automobiles, I'm going with the same example again. If I'm purchasing a car in the month of December and November, there might be a huge discount given to me. Why? Because if I'm purchasing it during the month of December 2024, the vehicle what I'm going to purchase is will be on manufactured year will be on the same year. If I would know to purchase the next year vehicle, I need to wait for another 5 to 6 months till June or July of the next year. The older vehicle will be purchasable. So it is not advisable to go for a new vehicle during the first half of the year, which is what the life cycle. If anyone, if the one who is going to be the automobile purchaser, the suggested feature is it is better to avoid the purchase of the vehicle during the first half, that is the first semester of a year, that is from Jan to June. If you are waiting till June and getting the new vehicle in the month of July or August, it might be on the current year vehicle, not the previous year. Till June 2025, you will be having 2024 vehicle. Even if you purchase register in the 2025, it will be having one indirect year depreciation that majority of people might not know. The chassis number, the engine number, the other characterization of the project will be 1 year lagging. So when you are reselling, even if you are using for 6 months, 1 year depreciation will be calculated. That is the huge problem for majority of automobile purchases. That is what the first point is revealing to us. That is sequential or usual definition. It is going to be a usual statement given. So this is the reason majority of people are getting many offers in December and January duration. Between December and January, majority of automobile sectors are giving more number of offers. The same offer we cannot expect in the month of July and August. When we go, they will simply say the on-road price. They will simply give a 3,000 or maximum of 5,000 of discount, and they will give a tag price. We cannot expect these 3 months of purchase. Why? Because if I need this year vehicle, it is better to purchase in the seventh, eighth, and ninth month of this particular activity. So, in the particular activity of a seventh to ninth or tenth month of a year, will give you a same year vehicle. This is the essential characteristic of the second point. That is cost and staffing levels, intermediate levels, rapid dropping. Why the project is getting a rapid downfall? Why there are a lot of uncertainties? Why there are a lot of inabilities? Contribution lacking, changes, error, inspection, continuation, lack of, essential resources. These are all the deciding factors of this particular characterization, which is a lacking factor of a project cycle. And coming to the cycles, which are all predicted. Just as I told, till then we discussed about a data driven, it is plan driven. Definition of the project, feasibility, systematic analysis, design of the system, coding, decoding, encoding, building a prototype, testing a prototype. Finally, what is to be implemented is running mechanism has to be implemented. Whether the running mechanism is smooth, I'll give you an example for this set of bullet points. Suppose I have a idea of purchasing a vehicle which is automated and as well as manual transmission, ATMT. So we all know the difference between automated transmission and manual transmission. So in manual transmission, the entire control is with us. Whereas in automatic transmission, every shift of gear will be systematically controlled and designed by a common host control. And that host control might not be us, might be a sensor or might be a shifter, driver mechanism with respect to existing automotive mechanism. So when the control is partially shared by me and the machine, I cannot ensure the reliability totally towards me. If the total control is with me, then I can ensure the reliability of the entire product, because if it is going to be a misaligned one, I can change the alignment even in the last moment. So majority of freshers who are all considering driving as a fresh one are going for AT, that is annual transmission, automatic transmission. But reviewers, users, maintenance officers, inspectors are not suggesting automated transmission. If there are about 1,000 vehicles, nearly 800 vehicles comes under manual and 200 vehicles are automated. So on an average ratio of 1 is to 4, for every 4 vehicles, one vehicle can be chosen as automated vehicle. So automated vehicles are reliable, but not fully reliable. Whereas manual vehicles are fully reliable because the controllable nature is with me. Coming to the last phase of this particular discussion, who are all the sub phases and who are all the sub projects initiators. There is a how they are going to fix a larger one to a smaller one, and who are all the portfolio creators. Everyone might be aware about a portfolio. A portfolio is nothing but a driven factors which are all reviewed, which are all maintained in a long land, which are all maintained with respect to activity groups, iterative groups, and managing groups. We have enormous number of groups, and all the groups are working towards a progress, and that progress might clearly define you which is going to be the initial factor and which is going to be the final factor, and where to start, where to end, and finally close the entire project. So the entire initiation, so with respect to project phases or like these kind of activity, so these 13 slides nearly includes 10 to 12 concepts, on an average of 10 to 12 concepts of your project life cycle. So in the upcoming session, we could be have a discussion on product life cycle versus project life cycle, and what are all the benefits of a project life cycle. So hope so everyone is having ebook with you, which has been shared in the meeting group. Everyone might have this. எல்லாரும் வச்சிருக்கீங்களா ebook?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So along with the ebook, I have uploaded my lesson plan. How many of you have noticed the lesson plan in the file? யாராவது பாத்தீங்களா அந்த lesson plan பாத்தீங்களா?
இல்ல சார்.
Please have a lesson plan
No.
view. So any doubts in this session, you can come ahead, or else we'll wind up. Any doubts on this
So
session?
where we have to see,
Sorry?
where we have to see the lesson plan? Lesson plan where we have to see?
The PPT போட்டத பாத்தீங்களா இல்லையா? Along with the PPT, the lesson plan is
Yes.
given.
Okay.
Along with this PPT, actually the PPT is uploaded in the files folder where it is being shared. So along with the PPT, lesson plan has been given. It is nearly planned for 12 hours for all the classes. The entire syllabus of project closure, it is being planned for 12 classes. So 10 classes will be like unit 1 to unit 5. That is 2 class per unit. So after completion of 10 classes, the 11th class will be on case study and the 12th class will be on revision. Right? So hope so you insist other fellow beings of your team to join in the upcoming session so that they might also get an awareness about how the flow is going on. So I'm not going to say something which is a new or a model mechanism. So I just need to facilitate them with respect to whatever the things are happening in and around us. That is a reason I'm asking you. So thanks for the session. If any doubts, you can come ahead. If not, we can wind
Thank you,
up.
sir.
Fine? Are you all okay?
Yes, okay. Yes, okay.
Fine, Gauri?
Yes, Professor.
Fine,
Yes,
fine,
Professor.
fine.
Sir.
Thank you. I'll stop recording. So once after stop